Hello everyone, Soberoni of GNA Reviews here with a video on the upcoming commemoration campaign for Fate Stay Night, the 20th anniversary commemoration campaign to be exact. We're actually getting a special campaign with a selection ticket for those of you who missed the news. They just announced it earlier today if you're watching the stream, or yesterday if you're watching the VOD. But basically, they're going to give us a Selector ticket. A free Selector ticket for a 5-star servant. I'm sorry, not a 5-star servant. A Fate Stay Night servant of our choice. So I kind of wanted to go over what this means. They really didn't make much of a big deal about it. It's not even on the site, like the Fate Stay Night news site, which is pretty weird. So I feel like a lot of people didn't hear about this. So I'm just gonna do my due diligence and make people aware and do advertising for Fate, as is my job. But basically, don't pay attention to these dates on here because this is for the JP event that we're getting. But at some point, probably next week, we will be getting a Selector to pick a Fate Stay Night servant of our choice. You can choose between Artoria, Emiya, Lancer Ku, Medusa, Media, Kojiro, and of course, Herc. And now I know you guys might be thinking, alright, this choice is super obvious, so I'm going to pick. They also come with a special CE that's like commemorative. It doesn't do anything. It's just like a bond increase. It's not really important. So unless you just like the card art, don't pay attention to the CE. But I did want to make this video to help people pick who they might want. So I know everyone's going to immediately jump to picking Saber. However, I do think there are use cases for picking another servant. So I want to get into that and make sure you guys make the best decision here. First and foremost, if you already have NP5 Saber, do not pick another Saber because you will not get a USO. It says it right here. Obtaining a copy of Artoria Pendragon will not count toward the progress to a USO. So you ain't gonna get it. If you have NP5, sorry, not a free USO for you. It's a wasted pick. So right off the bat, that's one group of people who should not pick Artoria. People who have NP5 Artoria. But outside of that extremely niche group, who should you pick? Well, I think there's really only two people who are worth, or two servants who are worth picking. Let's start off with who you shouldn't pick. Never, ever, ever waste a ticket like this on a silver or bronze servant, aka a free-to-play servant. As great as Ku is, and as handsome as Kojiro is, and as waifu material as Ryder and Medusa are, they are very easily obtainable from the Friend Point Gacha, even if you just started playing the game today. You can go and pick up NP5 versions of them from the FP Gacha. Don't use the ticket. Even if you love their card art, don't do it. The only ones worth picking are Emiya, Herc, and Saber, of course. As far as the best value pick, it's going to be Saber. She's the only 5-star that's selectable. She's the most rare of the servants selectable here. She's an amazing servant in her own right. Top tier Saber. She actually has incredible scaling into the late game, mostly because of all her interludes and strengthening quests. She starts out pretty average, but the further along you get into the game and the more you build her out, the stronger and stronger she becomes, until she becomes an absolute event farming beast, very easily capable of 3-turn farming and buster setups. Very, very strong servant. So yes, Artoria would be the best pick here, but I don't think she's the right pick for everyone. 90% of players are going to pick Artoria. Fine. However, I do think that the other servant who deserves attention here, for that small group of players who might want it, is Herc. If you are a brand new player, like you're just starting out for the summer event, or you just started out for anniversary or whatever, or you're just starting out now because of this commemorative event, I would honestly tell you to pick Herc. Reason being, story is really, really difficult to get through for newer players. Not just from a difficulty perspective, but because it's really tedious to go through so much story. There's a shit ton of story. And also it can get very tedious to constantly swap between teams to match the node that you're on. For example, maybe one story quest, you're up against a Lancer enemy, so you have to have a Saber. Next free quest, you have to fight a bunch of Saber enemies, so you need an Archer. Next free quest, you're going to fight Assassin enemies, so you need a Caster. The biggest hurdle for new players, or one of the biggest, is having a servant that's capable of doing all those nodes. It's really hard to build out a strong Caster servant, a strong Saber, a strong Lancer, a strong Archer for every single occasion. Berserkers really simplify that process, and it makes it so that you can just stick to one team and kind of just slice through story content. And of the Berserkers, Herc is by far the best one. Not counting, obviously, 5-star Berserkers. But even among 5-star Berserkers, he's better than most of them. He will easily make it so that you can cut through story content super quickly. You'll catch up very quickly to the Lost Belts. He's basically a easy mode for story. Just skip story, basically. The skip story servant. Doesn't matter what you're fighting, slap Herc on the team, he'll run through it. He does fall off a bit later in the game, towards the Lost Belts, but even then he's still a very solid servant. If you manage to get his bond CE, which is very easy to do, because you'll be getting a lot of bond points from story, he gets incredible survivability, and you can actually keep him in your back row once you get a better DPS, and you can just use him as a sweeper. He's one of the best solo sweepers in the game. So he'll always have tremendous value. He will make going through story so much easier and simpler for you. So yes, if you're a new player, I highly recommend you giving Herc a try, even over Artoria. That being said, Artoria is the best pick. Artoria is going to be the best pick for most people. Obviously, she's the 5-star there. Best scaling in the game among these choices. And let's be honest, she's the favorite servant, so she's probably going to get even better, more advantages later on. Probably better outfits too. So it's really the choice is up to you. The only reason I wouldn't recommend Emiya to anyone, unless you really love him, is because if you're new to the game, Emiya is not going to be as useful to you because he needs a good team built. He is a strong servant, but he needs a good team built around him to be really good. And if you're a new player, chances are you don't have a Castoria in your back pocket. You don't have a Merlin in your back pocket. So it's going to be really difficult to use Emiya effectively. And if you need a farming servant, because you're late in the game and you want to farm events, Saber. Saber is like one of the best farming servants in the game. So it's really hard to find a use case where you want to pick Emiya unless you just really love Emiya. And yeah, I think that's my opinion. So if you guys didn't know, now you know. And the music cut off perfectly. Great timing on that. If you didn't know, now you know. When you get the free ticket, make sure you pick up your copy of Artoria or Herc if you're a new player.